as it relates to SANDF members, the South African National Defence Force members. Important to know. Data coming out. As important as the data is, the number of people we lose because of COVID-19 complications can't be abstract, you would agree. These are precious human lives we're talking about. They leave behind families, they leave behind friends. Uncertainty still prevails. And at a time of uncertainty, how do we act as a people, as a nation? How do we cope? How do children cope in times of great fear and anxiety? Let me bring in a man for some perspective as well as insight, Professor Saths Cooper, a clinical psychologist. Professor, always a pleasure having you on the program. Welcome. Professor Saths Cooper, can you hear?
Yes, I can.
Welcome. You're live on the agenda. Thank you very much indeed, sir, for your time.
Thank you.
Look, Prof,
I can't hear your question.
All right, let me get out the first question. Let's see if you can hear us. If not, we will drop the line. We'll recall you because it's important to get your insight properly and for the audience to listen to what you have to say. So it's hard enough for you and I as adults to navigate through uncertainty during a pandemic. It is such an uncomfortable psychological state to be in. How do we expect children to cope? How can they cope, sir?
Well, children are very resilient. Children are learning organisms. They look around them. They are like plotters. They take in everything that happens. And it's important, I think, for adults in the environment to show children how to react to certain kinds of incidents that may occur during the lockdown and during other periods in their lives. Children are socialized and children learn certain behaviors, and therefore those behaviors need to be salutary ones. Those behaviors need to be ones that they can, in all fairness to themselves and to others, get on with without comeback.
Right.
However, the lockdown situation does pose serious problems, and those problems have to do with the lack of space, with the serious confinement that children ought not to be subjected to, and the anxieties around them, that which they hear constantly from the media, both social and print and electronic media, will have an impact on their lives because it's an unusual set of circumstances.
Right.
They have not been subjected. Yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry, complete your thought, Professor.
They have not been subjected to this kind of situation ever in their lives. Indeed, for nobody has this really been a normalcy. And given that many of our people, at least half of our people in the country, live in cheek-by-jowl conditions, the likelihood of friction, the likelihood of dissent and disagreement and being disagreeable is going to rise fairly often. Right. It's important then for older people in that environment to keep the peace, to enable young people to do the things that they're able to do under these uncertain and very unusual circumstances without getting into fights, without getting into frustrations, and so on. And this is the time when, for all of us, we need to do the kinds of things that ensure our children don't suffer unduly.
Having said
don't
that,
only
Professor,
think about yourself.
Right. Look, you 100% correct in terms of not thinking about yourself, thinking about others. And I guess it talks to the larger issues that we're dealing with in terms of how our health is interlinked, how our lives are interlinked during a pandemic like this. Having said that, many parents, Professor, are themselves traumatized. Many have had their income slashed. Some have even lost their jobs because of COVID-19. Parents are worried about their parents who are vulnerable at this time. They are worried about their children who, are cooped up at home for most periods or most parts of the day. How does this trauma that the parent is going through impact the child?
Well, look, one thing is very, very apparent, and that is this affects all of us. It's not like it's only affecting Blaine Herman. It's not affecting Saths Cooper.
Yeah.
All of us, all over in the world, are subjected to the same conditions. So that is a great leveler, and we ought to take some cognizance of the fact that it's not only I and my family, it's those around me. Everybody, everywhere in the world is experiencing the same thing. So if that realization comes to pass, we ought to lower the level of anxiety that we feel, because frankly, you can do nothing about higher levels of anxiety or getting more stressed out, and often taking it out on children and those women around you who are likely to look up to you for support, likely to look up to you for protection. So you as that parent, and especially as a male, ought to be able to understand that it's not only I. Get over oneself in the situation and say, look, I'm going to take this as it comes. Change the attitude of uncertainty, anxiety to one of it's out there, and I now need to cope with this by ensuring that I, one, appear better, think better, and behave better to those around me. I will not respond in anger. I will reduce any of my personal insecurities and avoid them vesting on my children and those around me. I will look to tomorrow to be able to confront what tomorrow brings. But sitting and moping and sitting and getting stressed out by what will tomorrow bring is not going to help you. It's not going to help those around you.
Right.
So it's actually taking charge of not only yourself and your thoughts and your emotions, but also of your immediate situation, and providing the level of care and consideration for the younger ones, those who are your offsprings, your brothers, your sisters, and the elderly as well.
Yeah.
You can't do anything about that job, because jobs are not just about to arise out there. But right now, focus on who you need to focus on, and that's your children, the immediate family that you care for, that care for you and look up to you. So change that behavior which says, what am I going to do? I have no job. Yeah. Or if I have a job, I am under certain conditions that are intolerable. Don't take out in the home environment those anxieties that come from the external world that we should do anyway in ordinary life. Blaine, all of us have been told, don't take your work home. Now,
easier said than done.
Situation, we don't know if the work is there.
Yeah.
So what can you do about it but be better at what you're doing? If you're a parent, really be better at parenting. Understand your kids' anxieties. The schools are supposed to be opening up in a ratcheted way from next week. And there are numerous other issues that are going to unfold there.
Yeah.
Give those children the support they need. Ironically, Blaine, everyone talks of my home, my family is my refuge.
Yes.
But now that we've been under lockdown for over 60 days, that refuge has become our prison, and that refuge has become the source of a lot of anxiety and indeed, dare I say, some brutality. So we need to turn that around, because if the home environment continues in this way, then we've got a serious problem for homes and safety within the home going forward.
It's the shifting of dynamics, Professor, that I think we need to talk a bit more about. It's an important topic, so I want to give it as much time as we can, but we need to take a quick break. Professor, please stay with us. When we come back, we're going to talk a bit more about the schooling system as well, and what should educators be aware of when children go back to school, well, starting from Monday with the grade 7s and grade 12s. More with the Professor next.